In 1867, the ground beneath southern Africa was violently ripped open when the first spectacular diamond was pulled from the dirt. But exactly while the British Empire was looking downward into the earth for wealth, the cosmic grid executed an algorithmic countermove inward. Most history books tell you that when global colonial powers brought industrial capitalism, the migrant labor system, and the tax ledger, African sovereignty was completely defeated. But what actually survived when the public structures changed? By the end of this episode, you will understand the exact hidden structural blueprint that allowed our ancestral authority to outlive the most brutal corporate extraction in human history. Long before Shembe ever stood on the holy mountain, the entire sovereignty of the nation was forced to retreat from the physical battlefield and dispersed across the continent, gestating within a network of consecrated wombs all over Africa. This is not just a history lesson. This is the geometry of our survival. The late 19th century did not merely change the political borders of southern Africa. It fundamentally transformed the energetic atmosphere of the land. If you are watching this right now, you are likely someone who has spent years connecting the dots across your own spiritual journey. You already know that nothing in this universe happens by accident. The field is completely mathematical. Pay close attention to the next 5 minutes, because we are about to decode how the universe synchronized a series of global disruptions to match the exact developmental stages of an entire prophetic network across the African landmass. When external institutions are targeted for absolute destruction, prophetic sovereignty does not fight out in the open plains. It first appears as an act of absolute internal preservation. In 1867, right as the global economic machine shifted its eyes to the soil, Shembe is born into the physical plane. The field went quiet. The code went underground. Look at the macro grid of history. In 1866, the first spectacular diamond is found. By 1869, the global trade networks compress as the Suez Canal officially opens, linking empires faster than ever before. And in 1870, the pressure reaches an absolute boiling point. An even richer diamond field is found, alongside the discovery of gold in Lindenberg. The earth was being hollowed out, and in that exact same year of 1870, a pale, ambitious young man named Cecil John Rhodes steps off a ship in Durban to begin his corporate conquest. But watch the cosmic symmetry. In that exact year of 1870, while the white gold rush begins, the toddler Shembe undergoes a literal experience of sudden death and supernatural rebirth. As the physical ground was being excavated to find wealth, the child's vessel was emptied and refilled by the divine spirit. The earth revealed what it contained. The child revealed what he carried. The age of extraction did not stop at reshaping economies. It was designed to systematically break the alignment of the African family structure by enforcing disintegration. To do this, the colonial machine had to violently remove the masculine centers of power. In 1869, the Natal administration imposes the colonial marriage tax, placing a commercial levy on the sacred union of families. By 1873, the old guard collapses completely. King Mpande of the Zulu dies. In that same fateful year of 1873, King Longa Libeli of the Amashlubi stands up against arbitrary colonial registration laws. The retaliation is ruthless. He is captured in Basutoland, stripped of his dignity, and dragged in chains behind a horse all the way to Pietermaritzburg before being exiled to Robben Island. With the mountain buffer zone shattered, the structural dismantling accelerated. Shembe's family is forced to pack their lives and move to Harrismith, surviving as tenant laborers on white-owned land. The old, integrated cattle-based sovereignty was aggressively replaced by forced labor. But while the public, masculine structures of African governance were being publicly dismantled by the ledger, the internal architecture of continuity remained quietly active under the guidance of Sitia in the mid-1880s. The external fortress had fallen, but the biological altar was untouched. But do not make the mistake of looking at South Africa in isolation. The intelligence fractal does not operate on a single meridian. It coordinates its defenses across a continental grid. Right as Cecil Rhodes and his contemporaries began to centralize the corporate mechanism, the African guiding spirit multiplied its masks. As the military option was exhausted on the plains, a spiritual non-local counter-resonance awoke across the entire landmass. In 1880, as the German Empire positioned its scales over Namibia, the Nama leader, Hendrik Witbooi, crossed the Orange River and received a direct, shattering vision from God. He was activated as a divinely appointed prophet, a Moses-like vessel sent to claim an uncapturable sovereignty over the soil. As European powers gathered at the Berlin Conference from 1884 to 1885 to formalize the scramble for Africa, slicing our sacred geography into corporate concessions, the fractal intelligence responded instantly. In 1885, during the very months of the Berlin Partition, Ignatius Lekganyane is born in Limpopo to anchor the structural foundation of the Zion Christian Church. 2 years later, in 1887, Simon Kimbangu is born in Congo along the Western Corridor. And in 1890, exactly as Cecil Rhodes pushes his pioneer column north to carve out Rhodesia and assert absolute corporate dominance over the Zambezi Plateau, the cosmic countermove triggers another birth. Samuel Mutendi enters the physical plane. He would grow to become the towering founder of the Zimbabwean branch of the ZCC, a spiritual shield raised in direct response to the Rhodesian administrative machine. Now, look at the timeline. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell was granted the first U.S. patent for the telephone. The empire was masterfully finalizing its terrestrial infrastructure, wiring the globe to compress physical space. But while they perfected communication on the terrestrial plane, spiritual communication was systematically intensified to intercept them. In 1879, the British columns invade the Zulu kingdom, ending the era of armed resistance. In that exact window of 1879, the young Shembe's direct, personal communication with God is initiated. As the First Anglo-Boer War erupts between 1880 and 1881, Shembe's shattered vessel begins translating the cosmic frequency. The universe was raising an entire parallel echelon of sages. By the late 1880s, the Matrix locks into its ultimate industrial form. In 1880, Cecil Rhodes launches De Beers Consolidated Mines, turning raw extraction into a centralized global monopoly. In 1894, Rhodes, acting as the governor of the Cape Colony, introduces the infamous Glenn Gray Act, dispossessing black people of their ancestral land and imposing a mandatory labor tax. This single act was the genetic mother of the devastating Native Land Act of 1913 to cement the trap. The native hut tax is introduced, forcing our ancestors out of their integrated homesteads and down into the gold shafts. The physical landscape was a closed cage. Between 1899 and 1902, the Second Anglo-Boer War tears the interior apart. On October 10, 1899, the war begins. But look at the ultimate cosmic balance. Just weeks before that war erupted, on July 22, 1899, under a brilliant, prophetic full moon, King Sobhuza II of the Swati is born. The universe was already planting the royal vessels that would eventually house the return of the sovereign code. The earth has been opened. Cecil Rhodes built his empire of diamonds and conquered kingdoms to his north. The wars have burned the valleys. The integrated structures of old have been shattered by colonial administration. But true sovereignty has not disappeared from the land. It simply went underground. It found its vessels. In our next episode, we reach the ultimate arrival of the 20th century, the 1906 Bambata Rebellion, which perfectly coincides with Shembe's dramatic baptism, the 1910 Union of South Africa, and the sudden, unmistakable emergence of Shembe as he steps out of the wilderness and enters Natal to establish the Nazarite movement. We will discover the consecration, how ritual became a legal jurisdiction, how an isolated movement became a sacred mountain, and how a collective code, carefully preserved within the maternal architecture of the continent, transformed ancestral preservation into an unbreakable, modern system of survival. I am the biological altar. If this journey into the true map of our sovereignty resonated with you, please subscribe, like, and share this video with those who are ready to awaken.